Are you ready? Can we talk a little bit about what the market looks like these days? Can we have the PowerPoint on stage? There we go. So I'm going to give you a very brief rundown. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but enough to give you guys a little bit of a feeling of where the market is going. So a quick overview. The US market, the most important market for diamond jewelry, and when I talk about diamonds, I'm only talking about natural diamonds. Did not do very well. 22, mid-21 to mid-22 did fantastically well, and after thing against it, it seems like there was a big slump. However, if we look at the latest figures, there's a little bit of improvement, so there is demand in the US market. China currently down 25% year over year against a very weak base, meaning China is not a promising market for the diamond industry for this season, etc. India is positive. It's as if we're at 2019. I mean, the market is doing well, consumer demand is good, weddings are as planned, and they have passed China and are now the second largest market. So the bottom line is it's a mixed market, right? There's no ifs or buts about it. If we look at overall jewelry demand in the United States, so this is with and without diamonds, we are seeing that the market is growing, that there is increased demand. The expectation is, and it's kind of early, but a 3.4% rise year over year. And even though this is old jewelry, this is why it's important. The American consumer is interested in jewelry. If there's no interest in jewelry as a category or declining demand or declining interest, they don't buy diamond jewelry either. It's not a full 100% correlation, but it's important to understand that the American market is growing, and with it, natural diamond jewelry grows too. So let's talk about the numbers up until now. So total diamond jewelry sales year to date are a little soft, but up 3.2% the last month. We are hearing from jewelers that November sales are not bad at all. It's kind of difficult to talk with these guys today, but you know, there's positive sentiment that we started to see back in late May, early June with jewelers at JCK is still definitely there. Transaction value is up. Two reasons for this. One, the bottom part is out, so these guys, if they can't afford, they just don't buy. Otherwise, they would have. Some of them went to lab-grown. The other reason is that there is an understanding that there's something very appealing to natural diamonds. The average spend per diamond is up. The average size per diamond is up. So think about it. So these guys said about 20% of their business is loose diamonds, right? They set them in store. And when we track them, we see that what used to be for decades about 1 carat, 0.9 to 104, now is 1.34 carats. So the American consumer is willing to buy bigger goods. Part of it is lower prices, but you know, this is the case. Market share, 86%. So there was this dude in the market that said that demand is 50-50. I didn't know where he got his numbers from, but that was for loose diamonds. If we look at overall all diamond jewelry as a category, 86% is natural. Market share is a little bit lower, and diamond engagement rings value. This is something that we need to pay attention to. Down 5%, by unit down 6%, while the average transaction is flattish, more because a decline in prices than anything else. The one thing that I really want you to pay attention to is the decline in sales for diamond engagement rings. This is the anchor. This is the anchor for our diamond industry. Everything we do starts from engagement rings. And there's an issue here that we need to resolve. I'm not sure if we are really going to be left scarred after that. That means we're not going to fix this completely, but something to keep in mind. Market share altogether. So, as I said, there's a loss of market share, but it's still definitely the dominant item. And diamond engagement rings, definitely 50% at this point. And that's not good news. Let's take a look at these two for a moment. Look at the difference in market share between all diamond jewelry and just diamond engagement rings. This is what you can learn from that. The average age of getting married in the United States today is 30. If the 30-year-olds have a great preference for lab-grown, it is the older demographics that are very much still holding on to the belief in natural diamonds. That being said, we need to attack two demographics. One, those older than 30s, and make sure that they stay there, they don't get lost. But younger generations, the 20-somethings, to make sure that we can pull them in. Al Cook earlier showed their latest campaign, and I think it's going to do good for that specific demographic. So a revival in demand in the United States, as I said, it's kind of difficult to see, but at the very tail end, you see that it's doing a little bit better. In terms of average price per unit, wide fluctuations, but there is a very, very clear trend. Many reasons why it's going up, why it goes down, it's seasonal, et cetera, but this is the darker line is a 3-month moving average, so I try to normalize it a little bit. And so, a market in turmoil, we are struggling, and I actually find it an opportunity. In the immortal words of Sun Tzu, in the midst of chaos, there is also opportunity. And that is precisely what we're going to be looking at next. So, the questions are 3 questions. What do we need to do? How do we do it? And finally, who should lead the way? Let's start with the last one. You guys. To say that somebody needs to do something else so I'll have a better business doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Hopefully, by the end of today and tomorrow, you'll say to yourself, wow, I have a bunch of ideas and I would like to implement them in my business. So without any further ado, I'd like to invite to the stage my panelists. We're going to talk about value. And our panelists are David Kelly, CEO, where's David? There you go. CEO of the Natural Diamond Council, Olya Linda, partner at Bain, Saag Arcelinian, director at Arcelinian, Cormac Kenny, CEO, where's Cormac? Here's Cormac, CEO of Diamond Standard. I think most of you haven't heard about this company. Very interesting. Some will love, some will hate. Pardon me for the setup. And William Lamb, CEO of Lucara. How are you guys?
Great.
Silence.
Thank you for having
They're
us.
terrified. They're just not showing it. There's something happening in the market. I mean, there's always something happening in the market, right? How do you understand value? What should somebody do? What should somebody else do? How do we do it? Why do we have all these problems? And I only have 20 years in the market. Some of you have a lot more. You probably heard those kind of statements repeatedly over the years. So I think maybe we'll start with you, William, because you're sitting clear at the other end. What is a diamond?
Well, I was hoping everybody here could answer. What is a diamond? And I'm going to use a bit of what Al Cook mentioned earlier today. A diamond is an analogy of life. If you consider what a diamond had to go through, and Al mentioned billions of years in the making, But any diamond, natural diamond that you have, had to go through a journey of between 200 and 500 kilometers, undergoing incredible stresses, temperature, pressure, the same as what life is, to lie there dormant for 100 million years, waiting to be discovered. And I think a lot of us are waiting to be discovered. People always want to be discovered. And then the miner actually brings this diamond into the light, and then it's the polisher whose job is to bring the light out of the diamond. So when I look at diamonds, it's a representation of everything that we actually go through. And I think there's a story to be told there.
Well, yes.
Thank you.
I noticed, Olia, that you were nodding and smiling. So, what is a diamond?
Thank you. And I think I will answer not as a consultant or somebody who's been in the diamond industry for just a little bit. I'm mostly an outsider. But I will try to answer as a woman and as a consumer, as a mother, as a lover, as a sister. And to me, the diamond, what I will tell you what it is not. It is not a stone. It is a symbol. It is an emotion. It is almost like a fragment of eternity captured in a crystal form. And to me, it's this, talking about this conference event, it's like this perfect symbiosis of nature's artistry and human craftsmanship. And that's why I aspire to buy them.
They like that. Okay, so let's start breaking it down into its components, okay? What do you think consumers value? You started as a by saying, I am a consumer myself, but what do consumers value?
So I think it's not an easy question to answer, and it's not a simple one, right? Because there is no such thing as an average consumer. I mean, in this room, we have probably many different things we value differently, right? And just to talk on average, I think would be a mistake. Also, consumers are fickle people. They change, their preferences change. And so it's almost we're chasing the preferences in time, right? So just the importance of really thinking about this all the time and not just taking one view for granted. Nevertheless, over the last 10 years, we have done a lot of research on what consumers value as we, in our consulting job, trying to help companies to understand what drives consumers and how can they take their products or services beyond the commodity level and really create loyalty, create pricing power, and create demand. And I think that's what we're trying to do here in the diamond space. And so we used the simple pyramid, which is called elements of value. That's why I brought my cheat sheet, because I have bad memory as I'm getting older. And there's 4 elements. There's functional. What does this product do to me, or service? There's emotional. What does this product, how does it make me feel when I use it? There is life-changing. How does this change my life? And also there is ultimate societal changes. What good does it do to the world or to society that I live in? And as consumers, we actually operate within these four levers. And for some of you who are intellectual, interesting to know that there was a person, Abraham Maslow, who developed the pyramid of needs in 1940s. So this is based on his psychology studies. But there is about 30 elements. Am I losing the elements in this pyramid? And what we discovered that companies or categories that do well, they touch on more than others. You have to touch those elements of people's souls, behavior, and the more you touch, the more you get attached to the product or service, obviously. And for luxury brands, there is, as I said, there is no average consumer, but there are themes. And there are 8 themes that we saw over these years that I wanted to share with you, if I may. So number 1, obviously, is quality of craftsmanship. I think it depends on the region in the world. We know America, US values size, probably more than other characteristics of 4Cs. But Asia, there is a lot more focus on clarity, on color, right? So we know those nuances. Second is design and aesthetics. Also very clear, I think. Jewelry, diamonds, we love what's beautiful and shiny. The third, though, is fun and entertainment. It means when I think about the product, when I buy the product, and when I use the product, what is my experience with it? And that's why you've seen a lot of natives, diamond natives, who started as digital natives, actually had to switch to physical experience because to engage consumer, this is an important part of the value proposition. We as consumers want to be engaged in a meaningful way. Fourth is a self-expression. Personalization matters more and more. We as consumers want to have control and want to have products and services that help define us. Especially true, I think, for younger generation than for older generation. Heritage.
Just for the help of those with gray hair, a younger generation is?
Young generation is when you feel young inside.
I see. Okay.
The other word is charming.
I
We
see.
all know that today, right? So it's true. It's like there's no average consumer, there's no average age. I think it's age just a number, right? It's how you feel. But it's true, some of us who grew up on certain marketing messages that tend to resonate, we tend to live them. And younger generation who did not grow up with those messages have different perspectives.
And you're looking at me, thank you.
Anyway, just to quickly continue, there's a heritage and there's investment. Another very important point, because some of the numbers we've seen for China, for example, maybe has to do with that component. Because we know that consumers in Asia think of jewelry as investment. And that is actually foundational value. It's not higher up in the pyramid. It's a must to deliver to some consumers. If they lose the trust that this product can be an investment, they are not coming back. Sustainability is very important and emerging. We've talked about it. And the final is status and belonging. Those are the things that consumers say they value. And what our research shows that in any industry, companies who could deliver on more of this actually win.
So the idea is, for the sake of our audience, doesn't matter if you're a miner, if you are a producing country, if you are a manufacturer or a retailer, you need to keep those concepts in mind when either marketing, when trying to help somebody else market, right? So if you're a vendor for a retailer and you want to move things forward. In a minute, we'll go into a little bit more detail about it. Cormac. So those who don't know, Cormac heads a company called Diamond Standard, which commoditized diamonds and buys diamonds in the midstream, is that correct? And sells it to investors. So that's a completely different kind of value. So is it possible for commoditization, first of all, to add value in the midstream?
Well, so I look at diamonds very differently. You asked what is a diamond to William and Olya. And I'm from outside the diamond industry. I spent 25 years first starting in computer science and then building trading systems. And I worked at some of the largest hedge funds in the world. And it's my wife's fault. She's a influential jewelry designer in America named Mimi So. She was the only American brand to be part of Richemont. So I paid attention to diamonds. And my question was, why can't I invest in diamonds at my hedge fund? And if you look at every precious metal, gold, silver, platinum, palladium, rhodium, investors own at minimum 15% of the global supply of palladium. Investors own 19% of silver, 17% of palladium. Investors own practically no diamonds. There's, the diamonds that go through Sotheby's, but that's huge trading fees, transaction fees. And obviously it's because every diamond's special. Every diamond's different. And there's no...
And has a different price.
different price, but who knows what that price is?
Yeah.
So I believed, and now I think I've proven, that that was a computer science problem that could be solved. And a lot of you have seen it, but we make these, you call them a commodity, but that's not to be taken as a negative against diamonds. So these are diamond standard bars. The breakthrough is that these two bars are equal. They contain an aggregate of carat weight, color, clarity that's optimized. And a lot of people look at this and say, that's wonderful, and set it aside. But the CFTC has approved this in the United States. This is what's called good for delivery for CFTC regulated futures and options. These are part of a listing agreement on the CME exchange, the largest futures market in the world. We expect to launch that later this year. And the most important breakthrough that inevitably make diamonds an investment product is that we now have approval for an ETF in Canada. If you're familiar, Canada is really the home to a lot of natural resource funds. And the most recent one was uranium. Uranium was never accessible to investors, just like diamonds. And the first uranium fund launched just 3 years ago, launched by a company called Sprott on the Toronto Stock Exchange, just like what we're doing. Today, the Sprott ETF is $7 billion of AUM, meaning that they bought $7 billion of uranium from the market. That gives you an idea of the potential demand for diamonds. But my wife is a jewelry designer and a diamond dealer. I had to be very careful. So if you look at commodity markets around the world like coffee, there's a futures contract on the CME, and the price goes up or down every day. You could never buy coffee at the price on the CME because quite literally, it's the worst coffee in the world. It's the minimum standard that the exchange is allowed to bundle together. If you want to buy Jamaican blue coffee or Arabica, or I just tried Ethiopian and Saudi coffee, which are actually very good, you pay a premium. This commodity is the exact same. When we buy diamonds, we bid on an exchange that we built. There's 130 members, a lot of them are in this room, and we buy diamonds using a computer. We don't even look at the diamonds, but it has to be, for example, this diamond must be a D-flawless 1.75 carat, has to be very good or better cut, has to have that grade by the GIA, but there are hundreds of diamonds that fit that grade. Cartier wants the best one, Chow Tai Fook is in there, and on down the line to Signet and JCPenney and whoever else. Diamond Standard wants the cheapest, which means we want the worst. But it has to be a D-flawless. But because of that approach, we're cleaning out everything that's hard to sell. And we're not competing with the jewelry industry.
So you're
Answer your
dealing with
question.
what is commonly known in the market as strops. The items that you bought and you're just sitting on it, am I using the word correctly? Strop?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Strop.
okay.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Cormac.
Or left shoes, or there's a
So is Dutch for a noose, right? The thing that you hang yourself off. William, you're moving with unease. You probably hate what you're hearing here with, it is commoditization. I mean, at the end of the day, you're buying against a certificate, right?
Yeah.
So commodity thinking, we had a conversation about this once. Commodity thinking is the kind of thing that you are totally against. What are your thoughts on that?
Maybe I'll, from a bit of experience. With maybe a standard size. And obviously our production is very different to what you would call a commodity. But if you have standard sizes and you can actually have consistent pricing, yeah, I'm sure that it can be traded as a commodity. With what we're looking at on the upper end, it's difficult to make that a commodity because a commodity is something that everybody can own. Not everybody can own a 50-carat polished stone. Whether that fits into your thesis, maybe not. So there's got to be a separation in the market as to what you can consider to be a commodity where you have enough production to make it a commodity versus what is a luxury good. And I think that's going to be the challenge. I think I'm sure lab-grown stones will come up here, but if you think about, I'd prefer to say lab-grown stones as a commodity because you can mass produce. Whereas that luxury component which we're looking to market and want people to own is a separate idea that people have to buy into. And then, of course, I don't think you can make a commodity from things that are investment quality. So these look fantastic. But it's where does value lie? Interestingly enough, if these are taking goods out of the market, which changes the supply-demand fundamental, then it's a different process. Then you actually have something which is adding value to the inventory that everybody else holds.
Let me take what you said, and if I may rephrase it a little bit. The understanding is that in today's changing market, to just sell a diamond and just make sure that you get the right price when you buy the rough, and your costs are so, and you want to maximize your price, but all you're doing really is just moving volumes, etc., essentially, that is not creating value.
No.
That is the commoditization thinking. That the idea is we need to take items such as those that come out of Lucara, right, at Coroa, and use them, first of all, as anchors to this is where value could actually go, but at the same time try to create a very different perception on the consumer market, and that needs to come from us.
Yes.
Is that an accurate portrayal?
Yeah, that's a good summary. I think it comes down to the want. A commodity is generally something which it's traded. Copper, gold is a commodity. Gold is kind of on the fringes there because people will want gold because it has a different use. But people don't want to borrow copper. People want to own a diamond. And it comes back to, and I throw it across to David in terms of the marketing. The marketing is the key fundamental factor which is going to differentiate between what is a commodity and how that is actually marketed versus where that want comes from.
Eden, let me...
I can tell your... Yes.
I want to jump in here because it's very interesting what William and Cormac has been saying. And the paradox with diamond is that it's everything at once, right? You will have round, white diamonds can be commoditized. And you will have other diamonds, non-white diamond, fancy color diamonds, who could be more considered as an investment class. But we're going into different budget. So, but all of it is being tied together because a diamond, in the end of the day, it's an emotion. If it doesn't have a perceived value of both an emotion and an intrinsic value to it, being a natural diamond, being so rare, then it has nothing. The two markets have to be together for the diamond to hold its value. The emotional tell, because if you only say it's a commodity, then it loses perceived value in the eyes of the consumer. But at the same time, it has to be sold as a storytelling of love and emotion. A diamond is being gifted at the most important moments in life. Engagement, birth, celebration, life achievements. And the talk that we're having here today on this panel about the natural value of diamonds, we must not overlook the fancy color diamond. The white diamonds can be all of it, but the fancy color diamond, although it's very low in terms of supply compared to the whole diamond market, it has such a huge value that it cannot be overlooked. When you look at fancy vivid pink or fancy vivid blue, how rare it is, only ones in millions can be found. But these are objects that are not on the same level, that you just look at the color. You know, the white diamonds, you will look at the 4C, the color, carat, the cut, the clarity. But the fancy color, the number one criteria is the color. And then how rare is the diamond? And it holds another dimension to it, not only emotionally, but in terms of rarity and investment class. So I agree what Cormac is saying, that some other commodities, investors are holding a bigger say into it. But as for diamonds, you would have an asset class of fancy color diamond, or like blue chips painting, or completely AAA, and I want to say are fail-proof against synthetic diamonds. When you look at synthetic diamonds, the next product that I can think of when comparing to it, it's precious gemstones, ruby, sapphires, emerald. Well, synthetic ruby, sapphires, emerald have been around for tens of years, and they have never endangered the real thing. Why? Because consumer can tell immediately when you have a fake ruby, emerald, or sapphire. It's just too good to be true. You don't see any inclusion of it, it's fake. It's the same for color diamond. The rise of the lab grown can be perceived as a can be perceived on the white side of the diamond, but not on the fancy color diamonds ones. And this is how fancy color diamond as an investment class is really, I think, the crème de la crème, but not for the average consumer within the diamond world.
Yes. So let's talk about the mechanics of how do we actually create a brand and create value. What does it mean, first of all, to unlock value? This is something that came up in our conversation. And value attributes. Challenging one, huh?
If I knew, right, I would.
I know you know.
I think it's one of those things that's a very complex and multi-layered challenge to unlock diamond value. We would agree. But it's going back to basics. I think it's a hard problem to unlock, but I think in deep down we all understand sort of the steps to take. It's just not easy to take them. What I mean is, do we really understand our consumers? We talk about consumers a lot today, today, since the morning, feels like yesterday, it's been 2 days. But do we understand exactly the different types of consumers? What do they value? You know, some of them value investments, some of them value different things, some of them want to get married, some of them want to use it just to give diamonds to yourself, right? But understanding this plethora of consumers, but more importantly, understand what triggers them, what gives them emotions, what gives them purpose. And once we do that, and I don't know, actually, do people feel you understand them as an industry? It's a question, right, for people to answer. But once you understand them, then the next challenge is how we deliver on multiple touch points with a single message to those consumers what they want. Starts with the products, but ends with experience and feelings about the product. It requires strategy, that you need to have a platform where you actually can come together in the industry and develop that strategy and execute. But also, it requires communication and story, right? The consistent story that can be built on, but it actually has to be different for different consumers. It cannot be one story of a diamond. Diamond is way too complex to have one story. You need to tailor it. And once you do that, then you can say, we solved it, that's how you do it, right? But that's creating partnerships. Nobody can do it alone. It creates consistency. And frankly, it's a transformation. Transformation requires money. You cannot do it on a cheap. It's an expensive endeavor to bring back the industry to what it even used to be. right, in the top of the minds of consumers.
The point is that it was done before, can be done again.
I personally believe it's been done before. We've talked about it.
Yes.
People talk about, but time's changed. It's challenging. Consumers are not what they used to be. But look, it's true. There is this notion of fathers and children that children are always different in the next generation.
Yes.
They come. There always been challenges with consumers, always. But I think the innovative companies, that's the beauty, is that you rise to the challenge, you find what ticks them, and you deliver on it again and again. And that's how companies or industries win.
And for those in the audience that are doubting about the ability to sort of redo something like that, let me remind you watches. Mobiles killed the watch industry. I mean, it was just devastating. And then all of a sudden, the watch industry, the high end, was good enough to, can you all go like this? You have a watch, yeah? You all, Sag, you don't have to. There you go. So the thing is this, I mean, so watches kind of reinvented themselves and they found a new purpose that has nothing to do with telling time. It's about what do you see in yourself, what you could afford, what do you want to do, where do you want to spend your money, where do you want to associate yourself, and all of those are things that we're constantly saying we need to do for the diamond industry, and that brings me to you, David Kelly.
I feel like that's a setup.
So in a way, we're really talking about cultural change, right? And what drives it, so what can we do to drive, because it's not something that just happens out in the open air, it's kind of driven by commercial entities. And so as the marketing guy of the diamond industry, the appointed marketing guy, how can we get there? Don't start smiling now. I mean,
I'd say this is definitely a setup. So I think, the good news is that it's easy. The good news is that we have the skills. The good news is we have the people. The good news is we have the most desirable product in the world. Of the 8 points that you listed that you have to connect with, there is nothing better in the world than natural diamonds for that. So anyone that knows me says, what motivates you? I passionately believe that natural diamonds are the most desirable products in the world. But, thank you. And that is...
Followed by watches.
Followed by watches. But that is backed up with data. That's not me just having a passion for it. That's backed up with data. If you go onto any social media platform, the engagement with consumers in diamonds and jewelry is way above fashion, way above luxury. My background is fashion and luxury, so I know. So for me, I'm passionate but frustrated at the same time because it's easy for us to transform this industry. And it's done because it's done through social media. She, in our target market, is spending 6 to 8 hours on her phone every day. For whatever use. That's for work, for social, for shopping, for whatever else. Even if I look around the room now, and that's okay. Probably a quarter of the room is on their phone. And that's okay, but that's where people spend their time. So we as an industry have to adapt to that.
I'm looking to see who's on their phone right now.
Yes,
I saw you.
Yeah.
Who else? Thank you. All right.
Yeah, but I'm okay. I'm not calling people out. That's the reality.
I am.
No. It's kind of, but that's the reality.
I want them to listen to you.
Yeah. Everyone's multitasking. They're listening and on their phone at the same time, I'm sure. But that's the reality. There's no point in pretending otherwise. So the good news is that if you understand TikTok, if you understand Instagram, if you understand Facebook, Weibo, WeChat, YouTube, Google, Reddit, if you understand all of those platforms, and all of those platforms tell you how the consumer responds to those 8 points. So on TikTok, they respond differently from Instagram, from Facebook. Each platform has got its own way of using it, completely different from the other one. So it's a highly technical, highly skilled world now, and I know the whole industry has an opinion on marketing. You know, every day of the week I get opinions to say, oh, David, you've got to be doing this, you've got to be doing that, and I think it's about this value or that value, and say, you're right, but everybody is right. It's all of those values combined.
Absolutely.
And the beauty of the world today is you're not trying to get those in a double-page spread.
Yes.
You're not trying to get those in a 90-second video. You've got all of these channels available to you to talk to consumers, to tell them all of the values of this industry, and do that with passion. And so, from my perspective, the answer is easy. We have to communicate with consumers. And we have the expertise in the industry to do that, and that's global, across Europe, the US, China, India, Africa. We have the skills to be able to do that. But we have to use the people with the skills to do it. One frustration is the number of people in this industry say, don't worry, I'll do it. I'll do it from my country, my place, my office. We'll put a video on YouTube. We'll spend some money here. And it's kind of, respectfully, if you're not in the market where the consumer is, you can't possibly understand that consumer. In the same way that I wouldn't say to our team in Shanghai, this is the best way to market to consumers in China. That's why I have specialists in that market who understand that consumer, who understand the press, who know the retailers, who know the influencers. So we as an industry just have to get over it and say we have to invest. The one thing that everyone in this room shares in common is that your goal is to maximize your business bottom line from this industry. That's what we all share in common. Everybody in this room has got a different role in this industry, but you're all sharing the same role, and that is, how does my business, how does my country, how does my entity make more money out of this business, including everyone that's here on the panel, including you. We all make, except for me actually, I'm probably the one that doesn't make more, we're not for profit. So the answer is, how do we all make money? But at some point, we've all got to stop and say, we've all got to invest. We can't all be the people that take the money out. No, someone's got to put the money in. Because otherwise, and we were chatting last week about this, if you know, great graphs, great data, etc. If you look at this industry over the last 10 years, the supply of diamonds has reduced continually. Look at everything long term. The supply of diamonds is reduced. The middle classes have grown. Luxury has boomed. We should all be sitting around here with our Porsches, Ferraris, Lamborghinis all lined up outside. All the data 10 years ago, if I'd said to you 10 years ago, supply was going to come down, that the middle classes were going to grow, luxury was going to boom, we wouldn't be worrying about everything. You know, we'd all be, let's go and have a party. You know, this is about how do we make more money out of it. We have blown this. I mean, let's cut the chase. We have blown this as an industry, and we are going to. And we are going to blow it again. You know, we are going to blow it again if we don't sit down and say we have to invest.
Yes.
And I congratulate Antwerp, I congratulate Dubai and India, who announced 2 weeks ago that they're going to come together and say, how do we start this investment discussion? It's the start of a discussion. There's no commitment yet on the table. But we have to blow it out of the water. We can blow this industry out of the water. And honestly, if you don't believe that, then I would say leave it to the next generation. If you're in a multi-generational family and you don't believe that we collectively can create an amazingly high-profit industry, then I would ask you to pass it on to the next generation, because I think the next generation has got more passion and desire and understanding to be able to do that.
I have a sinking feeling, I have a suspicion that many in the industry feel that when we're talking about marketing and we're talking about investment in marketing, some of these guys hear in their mind, so this is an extra cost for me. They want to tax me in a way. And if there's anything that by now already heard, is that it's not just about giving money to, say, the NDC. There is a need for each and every company to reach out and find what is it that their clients are interested in and help them with their marketing. I mean, there's the tire industry, you know, they sell tires. Michelin will talk with a vendor, with a retailer, and say to them, how's your sales? I mean, we see they're kind of down. Can we help you out maybe with some ads, etc.? We'll provide you something at a lower price. You'll put a discount. We'll generate the whole. So this is a major manufacturer that is talking with retailers all the way down out there. And I think that kind of activity is maybe lacking in the diamond industry.
Yeah, I mean, again, not to get too technical, the reality is that in just about all consumer goods industries, it's not the retailer that's creating the brand values and communicating the brand values. Retailers' jobs, whether it be in groceries, car dealerships, wherever, their job is to clientele, to maximize the revenue from it, to do the selling. What you have in every other industry is brands that do that job. So even if you go to a grocery store, probably what you put in your basket are brands that you identify with. Our challenge is that in most of our industry, we don't have that.
Yeah.
Outside of the top 20%, we don't have that.
But a diamond in itself is a brand.
It's a brand that we're taking for granted. It's a brand because De Beers said it's a brand, and for decades invested heavily in it. So now we are taking that for granted. There is no brand in the world that sits back with their arms crossed and says, we're a brand, don't worry about it.
Yes.
Every brand has a significant proportion of their P&L that invests behind that brand.
Yes.
So we are only a brand if we invest.
And testament to that is what we're seeing with diamond engagement rings today, because this age group did not see a whole lot of branding in the last, or genetic marketing in the last 10, 15 years. So for them, this is kind of the guys that we lost to start with.
Sure. I mean, I'm sure everyone in this room, does mystery shopping, goes into stores, and one of our team was in a store in New York and said, well, that's a natural diamond, that's a lab-grown diamond, what's the difference? And of course, the answer was the price. And at that point, we've lost it.
Yes.
We have completely lost it if the only value that anyone can talk about is the price. That is not what natural diamonds are.
So you're saying that one thing that these guys can do is actually talk with their clients and say, do you want me to sit with your sales staff and tell you a little bit about Botswana, what's happening in Namibia, how we're getting these goods out of the ground, supplying it to you, and kind of jazz them up so when somebody walks into the store, direct them to this and not to that.
Yeah, I mean, they do. And again, it came up in one of the panels.
You're nodding.
Yeah,
You like that?
It came on one of the panels this morning when we were talking about sustainability and traceability. And you'll hear two very different arguments in this industry. If you say to retailers, does the consumer ask about sustainability and traceability, most retailers will say no. And yet, if you ask most research, consumers will say, yeah, it's always really important to us. So people say to me, well, which one of those two is right? Those are two extremes on the discussion. Is sustainability and traceability important? Well, the answer is just because the consumer doesn't ask for it doesn't mean to say it's not important.
It's not in their mind.
Yeah, we had a mystery shopper go into a store on the west coast of the US and said, well, where's the diamond from? And the sales professional selling it said, well, from Texas. And it was kind of, yes, okay, that's a very practical response.
They walked into Zelle because their headquartered in, yes.
If someone said to me, where does the diamond come from? I would give them the 5-minute story, about the origins of diamonds, just as William did, what they stand for, what they mean, the positive impact. And not because I want to sell a diamond, it's because I think she will feel amazing about the diamond that she's just bought. I think that it's the one thing that's on your body.
What you're saying is, I can back it up with data. What you're saying is very accurate, because I made a point at some point, I did some research, and I walked into stores that sell $15 to $20 million a door annually. And I wanted to know what is it that they're doing different from those that sell $2, $3, $4 million, which is nice, but a big difference. And what I found was that all of them spend a lot of time with each person that walks into the store. They have a whole spiel ready. I mean, they have a step-by-step, how do you talk with these guys? What do you say? What do you avoid? How do you answer that question? And they know how to capture these people's imagination and eventually their dollar. And that's how they generate higher value.
But if I can just add to that point, I don't think in most retail stores, particularly in America, and I say this to retailers,
Yeah.
I don't think there's another product that a consumer buys in that kind of $3,000 to $5,000 price point where they get a worse experience. This is the most beautiful product in the world, and my opinion is that it's the worst experience in the world. And unless we as an industry come together and say, how are we going to change these fundamental challenges? Are we just going to accept that? Are we just going to accept that the experience, all the effort that we put in,
Yeah.
all the people in the room there, are we going to accept that? Or are we going to figure out collectively how we're all going to go out to our customers and say, okay, you need to do these education, you need to train, you need to educate, you need to get it. People are too quick to accept the sale.
Yeah.
Because if they don't accept the sale, then somebody else will come in, and do the sale without the hassle. So we as an industry have to figure these challenges out.
Yes. No, absolutely.
Aidan, you that are data-driven, exactly, this is why more and more jewelry is being sold as branded jewelry and not unbranded. 30 years ago, 10% of the worldwide jewelry was being sold as branded jewelry. Today, 30 years later, it's 30%.
Yeah.
And the trend to buy branded jewelry is because of the customer experience, like you've said, and because of all the effort in bringing the story forward.
Yeah. And jewelry stores, when it comes to the holiday season, putting these large signs, 30% off, it's painful to look at it because you're telling me that you have a $5,000 or a $10,000 product, but actually there's 30% profit in there that I'm willing to give away for free. And, so why should I buy, so where's the value? So that's kind of the, William, you...
Yeah, just on the point you just made, as soon as you have a 30% discount, it's no longer an experience. It's get in, get out.
It's transactional.
Yeah, but I wanted to come back to what David was saying. So Al this morning, he asked questions about supply and demand. So for a show of hands, how many people here have actually been to a mine? That's actually quite good. Because when we start to talk about what David is talking about, and you have to have the education. We need to educate people where their diamond comes from, what their diamond actually has done. So I'd see our friend from Angola is nodding. But if the president was here as well, if you look at Botswana as the poster child for what diamonds have done for an entire population, that is what people need to understand. And it's the way we use marketing to differentiate what a natural diamond is to something else. But we don't. We started, how much money are we going to make on the stone? But if you don't understand the story of what that diamond does, how can you create an experience when somebody buys a diamond from you?
Well said.
I was at the Dubai conference 2 weeks ago. I'm here today. I've heard spontaneous clapter 8 times. And each time, it's when someone says something supportive about how special natural diamonds are, how they're going to bounce back against the threat of synthetic, how people are cherry-picking positive points of data. This is self-delusion. Prices are down 50%. They're still going down. Synthetic diamonds are not watches that I want this, I don't want an Apple Watch, I have both. This is something very different from an Apple Watch. A synthetic diamond is getting miraculously a better reputation than natural. People are calling it ethical, which is ridiculous, the way they're made. No jobs, no taxes, no construction. Natural diamonds are ethical, and you've lost that. I'm an outsider, so I look at the data, and I know that consumers do not listen to marketing the way they used to. You could spend $1 billion marketing natural diamonds, and the consumers may not even notice it. In fact, it could backfire. That you advertise enough about natural diamonds, and they will take it as, oh, look at these scoundrels trying to trick me. This is not the answer. And by the way, the same exact scenario happened to the gold industry in the 90s. For 15 years, the price of gold went down. 15 years. And like the diamond mines, the gold mines became desperate. We have to solve this, and you're not going to solve it by marketing immensely and pointing to somebody else to spend that marketing, by the way. The gold industry got together and they created an investment product. That investment product was the gold ETF, which launched in 2002. And today, gold ETFs own consistently $300 billion worth of diamonds. That demand, which is not seasonal, it's permanent demand, supported the growth of the gold industry, and that repaired the reputation of gold. Gold had lost its reputation as a hedge against inflation, the same way diamonds are rapidly losing their reputation as something valuable that consumers want. These platitudes and hoping that money falls out of a tree to start marketing are not going to turn this industry around, and it's in serious jeopardy. I believe that investor demand is the best answer because it very forcefully answers the question, why does it have to be a natural diamond? I can't tell the difference. Well, because a natural diamond is the only one that's rare, that has economic substance, and is acceptable to investors as an asset. And that's my proposal to this industry.
Okay.
Yeah, and
I
Cormac, if
think
I
there's
can,
a lot
if I
of-
can push back on that, because I think gold is a very unique and specific
Absolutely.
commodity.
And it's
that is
money.
used by governments
By definition,
to
it's
hold.
money.
So I don't think gold's a good comparison. There's no other consumer desirable brand in the world that doesn't do it through marketing. Look at the likes of LVMH, Richemont, Kering, BMW, any other brand in the world. I can talk for hours on the topic, and I won't. But I think claiming that just, and you know I support you strongly, and I agree with what you're doing, but I think to claim that turning it into a commodity is the salvation.
Not
as
salvation.
opposed to
It's
pure
part of
marketing.
it's part of
No,
the
no,
answer.
but
Yes.
also I do have to push back because I think what's interesting with marketing, no one sees the value in marketing until you take it away and you see the impact of it. And that's what we're doing now.
You know, if they
And
say,
another example, pardon me, I'm going to you right now. The other example is water.
Is who, sorry?
Water.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, water, open your tap, and it costs you cents. I mean, it's meaningless. But you'll go to the supermarket and buy, bottles of, Perrier or whatever, and you're paying an insane premium, and the only reason is marketing. I mean, no water ETFs or... but Olya, sorry.
sorry, I was
interrupted you.
just going to say that, with marketing, they say 50% of that is wasted, but you don't know which one, because the other 50% gets you where you need to go. So I fully appreciate. I wanted to say, look, if you were to dream and think about if we do get it right again, because and people say, no, what's possible? And we just did a little bit of research. If you take rough, $14 billion roughly of rough market, and if you in every market would go back to where they historically used to be high as percent of share of wallet of consumers, right? We're not asking for anything extraordinary. We're saying we go where we used to be in each market. That actually alone would give you another $7 billion of rough. Just think about it. Just going back in each market where they used to be with the marketing that used to be. If you were to dream further, and let's say, what about every market is going to be like US market, where they love diamond jewelry? That actually will add you another $8 billion. And this is not even talking about investments, which is on top, right? Or other things. Just think about going back to where the industry used to be is a lot of upside. So it's absolutely doable, but requires really partnership across the value chain.
Indeed. We're getting to a close, so I want to ask David a question. What is it that traders can do to better understand the audience that they should be looking at, and those that we collectively are trying to reach? You started to talk about TikTok, but
Yeah, I mean, I would say if you're on social media, I think a lot of people in the room are on a social media. You don't have to be on every social platform. Just be on the one that you like, but engage in it and try and understand it. See what's working. Read the comments. Follow sites you don't normally agree with. Follow, cultural sites, etc., and just get a connection to the consumer through social media. It's difficult when you're not in the market. But many people are selling diamonds in the room here that ultimately end up with a consumer in a different market. So follow social media. If you're not on social media, then make a point of asking people in your team to sit down and talk to you about it. Talk to you about culture.
who should they ask? Who in their team?
I think, so you'll be pleased to know that I'm the only old man in our team. I don't make any of the tactical decisions on it, just the strategic ones and speak on panels and things like that. But
Yes.
all of our team is in the target audience. So I make a point of making sure that they make the decisions on how we should show up on TikTok and how we should show up on Reddit, etc. So long as it's strategically right, they're the people that adapt it. So we as an industry, it's really important, and I mentioned earlier on, you don't have to do it yourself, but make sure you're connecting with the generation, with the audience that is buying diamonds. Ask them about what they're buying. If they're buying sneakers, ask them why they buy certain sneakers. What is it? What gets there? Because sometimes we as men particularly, and older men even more so, tend to be very pragmatic in how we make purchase decisions. The reality is this is a 100% emotional decision. And therefore, we can't have that insight unless we are sitting there and talking to members of our business, our families, our friends, who are in the audience that are ultimately consuming diamonds.
So you mentioned earlier mystery shopping. We need since we're targeting 20-year-olds and at least trying to groom them or bring them to the point that when they are 30, they do buy a natural diamond. So we need 20-year-olds, women.
Yeah, predominantly women.
Predominantly
that are shopping for diamonds. Women make the decision on the engagement ring, and that's a big change from the decades ago when De Beers was advertising. So the decision is with them, and that's how. And the good news is that they're very fickle. So the good news is that they change their mind regularly, and that's great because it means that you can influence them and you can change. I hope I'm okay. I always feel guilty about women. Yeah, it's
So it's a 20-year-old putty. That's what you're saying.
Yeah. But the good news is that because they're fickle, that you can influence them. You can emotionally communicate with them, and they, as we see, and that's why trends happen so quickly. Trends happen quickly because people change their minds and they want to adapt and they want the next new big thing.
I think they deserve a good round of applause. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Okay. I knew we were missing something.